Pam Bondi beginning to throw other people in the Trump administration under the bus. Wow, I like it. Elliot, tell us all about it.
I mean, that was an incredible cat paw there. In a closed-door congressional interview with the House Oversight and Reform Committee regarding the Trump administration's total bungling of the Epstein files, Bondi appeared to distance herself from the controversial investigation. Who wouldn't want to? In her opening statement, Bondi defended the DOJ's handling of the investigation, but passed the buck to her then deputy, Todd Blanche, by saying that he led every aspect of the department's probe into Epstein. It was his fault. Don't look at me. It was the other guy. As reported by The Guardian, Bondi claimed that he was in charge of the process and the entire release of the Epstein files, she told lawmakers on the 29th of May. In her opening statement, she also said that she did not conduct that document review myself, and told the panel that she delegated oversight over this process to Blanche. Like any good supervisor, it's just best to blame whoever is beneath you and just kick it down the road a little bit. She further acknowledged that there had been redaction errors and some other missteps during the investigation, but she did maintain that the investigation was largely spearheaded by Blanche. So, take that how you want. This prompted Representative Robert Garcia of California to say this.
It is clear in just this part of the interview that she continues to push all of the investigation and the blame on acting AG Todd Blanche. She said, and I quote, "Acting AG Blanche was managing the entire investigation," end quote. And what you're going to hear in that interview, and what she's saying here in her words and remarks, is that it was Todd Blanche, the current acting AG, that was leading the Epstein investigation. And quite frankly, all of the mistakes that we saw, the redactions, not protecting survivors, she continues to push that back onto the acting AG, Todd Blanche, who, by the way, was Donald Trump's former personal lawyer.
Well, Pam Bondi wasn't gonna take that, and so she decided to shoot back on X with the following. Not true. I praised acting AG Blanche's management of this Herculean task. I said his ethics are beyond reproach and that he is an incredible attorney general. Just look at the Dow. She didn't really say that part, but anyway, still some speculate that her closed door framing of Blanche as the one who oversaw the investigation could be, in essence, retaliatory. Blanche has been elevated to acting attorney general after Bondi was fired by Trump over her mismanagement of the Epstein case. It should be noted that she vehemently protested her ousting at that time. Her testimony with the committee comes at a time where Trump is publicly considering making Blanche's appointment permanent, which undoubtedly salts some lingering wounds for Bondi. Fortunately, she's so well adjusted, you could hardly tell. However, the most compelling argument for this being an act of retribution is Bondi's statements about Ghislaine Maxwell, otherwise known as the Trump administration's favorite little prisoner. Blanche, who had met with Maxwell privately about the Epstein files, ended up coordinating her transfer to a nicer prison. Only the best for the Epstein accomplices. This development was something that Bondi apparently learned from after the fact by the press. Asked whether Maxwell should receive a pardon, Bondi replied, no, adding that Maxwell was a monster. I believe she should die in prison, said Bondi. Publicly characterizing Maxwell as a monster might seem obvious and uncontroversial. I think if you have a working brain or eyes or ears, you could probably agree with that statement. But coming from a former Trump cabinet member means it carries a slightly different weight. Blanche will likely be placed in a potential career-ending position by Trump, who might have the DOJ proposition Maxwell to not further implicate Trump in the Epstein probe in exchange for a pardon. Okay, good, I'm glad we got the corruption out of the way. Although not stating that as a reason exactly, Trump has long floated the idea of pardoning Maxwell, and there's a good chance that Blanche will get caught up in the crosshairs. Having Bondi outspokenly reject the idea of a pardon mounts the pressure on her former colleague to either side with his boss or the bipartisan efforts of Congress to satisfy the public's outcry for accountability on this issue. An interesting development, to say the least. Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so you got to break it down in a couple of ways, but first let's have a little bit of fun. Brett pointed out Summer Lee to me in the background there.
She's Jim from The Officing that whole time.
Yeah,
she's just like, if we can go to B-roll for that first the video of Garcia, It is insane, dude.
Yeah.
She just cannot be effed.
Yeah, to me, it was like resting please face.
Yes.
Right? Please.
Like, it wasn't scary,
right.
but it was like, okay.
Okay, it was just a little bit of fun. Another fun game is have Michael Schur identify every congressman in that video. But anyways, that's another one of our hosts. All right, let's get to serious stuff. So is she doing strike back? That one's pretty clear. Yes, no question about it, right? But then there's a second question, which is it true? Is Todd Blanche the main guy who's helping Trump with the Epstein stuff, including Ghislaine Maxwell, and that he was the one saying, do this, do that? Now, I think probably is the answer, but does that provide any mean that Bondi does not have culpability? No. First of all, you were in charge, and whether it was your subordinate or Trump telling you to do it, you did it. You're the one who covered up the Epstein files, so you can't escape responsibility that way. And second of all, you were letting your subordinate give you orders, not exactly strong, right? So, and third of all, Pam Bondi is one of the most corrupt people in the country. That's why he picked her in the first place. So back in the day, she was Attorney General of Florida. The other attorney generals were investigating Trump University, which is a fake university, and a Trump charity. I forget which one was the university or the charity. They were both fake, and a bunch of attorney generals were investigating it together. Bondi said she was going to investigate it too. Then Trump sent her a campaign check, and she dropped the investigation. She was picked not despite her corruption, but because of her corruption. So is she part of this motley crew? Of course. Right.
Yeah, no, I trust that Pam Bondi is absolutely throwing this guy under the bus and trying to keep her hands clean. I've watched Big Brother, I know how this works. She doesn't want to have blood on her hands. She wants to deny it. Oh, no. Do you like that information about Pam Bondi saying essentially like this guy was in charge? Like that's a leak. That's got to be a leak on purpose to get this guy to feel bad. And it's amazing. At the end of the day, we still don't have the Epstein files, and we want them. And it's possible that we have a war raging in the Middle East, at least in part, to distract us from the fact that we don't have the Epstein files, and very important people in the world and the White House, like absolutely, positively are very grateful for every moment they don't have to talk about this. And the result is actually that all of the news is wildly horrible, because occasionally, like I forgot about the Epstein files, so I guess it worked. Occasionally I'm reminded that like not only were the Epstein files not released, but like the Todd Blanche is now in many ways free to continue hiding them. Like we really took the person who was, it seems, according to this report of Bondi, the person most responsible for me not seeing the gross stuff and letting him cook. And he's cooking at the highest level of the Department of Justice.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I was reading the story, I was like, it's so like they're framing it, regardless of whether it was Blanche or Bondi, there's a framework where they keep being like, well, back then, that whole Epstein file thing, that's totally done now. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's in the past, but yeah, it's not. Like we haven't gotten all of the Epstein files, and they kind of throw out these little like qualifiers, like, oh well, yeah, maybe there were some redactions and there were some mistakes or whatever. It's like, well, where is it then? Like fix those things first. We're still in this. I think that there's a rhetorical kind of flourish that they're doing to make people forget that this is still an ongoing thing.
Yeah. So. There's one thing that she said in there that I thought, oh, that's interesting, right? The part about the Ghislaine Maxwell, because it was kind of gratuitous. Like she'd never said that before, even when she was Attorney General, and she's supposed to be the person like bringing them to justice, right? She leaves and she throws this, rolls the hand grenade back into the room, like, because that made me think she knows something we don't know, that Blanche and Trump were probably thinking of being more lenient / maybe pardoning Maxwell on the way out. And she's like, good luck doing it now, right? But trust me, they will. Like, I don't know that they will for sure. I'm not like making a prediction about it. I'm just saying that her saying that isn't going to stop them. Like they don't care. And the reason why Todd Blanche might have gotten more direct orders from Donald Trump is because he was his personal lawyer. Like, I mean, I remember when was it Eisner who ran Disney? But what I do remember about the story is that he put all of the people he knows personally on the board of Disney, and it became like a joke. I think he put his dentist on the board. Okay, really? Yeah, and that's going to be like Trump by the end. Well, and he almost did it. I mean, Bill Pulte is some like weirdo lackey who's now the head of housing and the head of national intelligence, right? The dentist is not far behind. So, and it doesn't really matter if it was Blanche or any of the other Golden Girls. At the end of the day, the fish rots from the head down, right? So Trump is the one ordering the corruption.
Yeah.
And whatever grenade that Bondi throws back is not going to work.
Do you ever get I get tired of having to figure out how I'm going to call out the corruption, in ways that'll make sense, because it's really so obvious.
It's like being shot in the face with a paintball gun, and you're having to just constantly wipe it and be okay, well, I think what you're doing is wrong.
But it really is bad.
Yeah.
It's so horrible. When we run the B-roll of the photos of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Trump, and Melania, when Trump first was elected, I remember. I think I referred to it as he's just going to be a fart smell, and we're going to get nose blind to it. Yep. And that has happened. Thinking back to the things that would have gotten people out of office before and still take down other politicians than him right now. All of this corruption, Epstein files, starting wars, the billions of dollars in handouts to his family. I feel terrible. And the worst thing is when you see people finally give up and be oh yeah, I now the guys in the manosphere comedians being oh yeah, now I get it. I'm how am I supposed to accept you in full? I get it, I'm going to. But next time, can you just look at me and be yeah, you seem like you had you were onto something there. It's a really tough position for the responsible to be in.
Yeah, now at the same time, Brett, so there's the MAGA that has stayed with them, that's the impenetrable guys who are oh no, when we said drain the swamp, we meant give your sons billions of dollars in contracts and $50 billion to the guys that are helping you out with the ballroom and make sure that you protect the pedophiles who are with Epstein, right? So they're still saying that, but those guys at this point, if you still haven't gotten the memo, you're pretty unreachable, right? But good news, they're very small, well, in terms of winning elections, they're too small a percentage of the country, about 25% roughly, right? But the other 25% that voted for Trump, the manosphere, et cetera, they're yeah, bro, we have eyes. We're generally bros and we agreed with you on the social issues.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm so worried about drag hour or whatever the hell, right? But we didn't tell you to go rob the place, right? And so they're calling him out. That's why his popularity is in the tank. But Brett is absolutely right. We got used to it. We should things we should never get used to. If Obama was oh yeah, the worst groomer in American history, Ghislaine Maxwell, I'm gonna give her a club fed room. She's gonna get to run the place, use DoorDash, play tennis all day, bring in pets, stay up after everyone else, including the warden, has to go to bed. I mean, what is this? I mean, a tan suit? He eats his burgers with a mustard. They criticized him over that. I mean, they would have eviscerated him for this. And we often forget, oh yeah, they're giving giant benefits to Epstein's main co-conspirator, and they haven't prosecuted a single other person related to Epstein.
My favorite thing about the Ghislaine Maxwell thing was the words "nice prison."
Yeah.
Is it really imagine going, whoa, what a nice prison.
Yeah. When you walk into a hotel room and you're oh,
mini bar. Oh, look at that. Robe. This one's got slippers.
Yeah, and you remember Epstein's first sentencing back in 2008 sentencing was they're yeah, you're going to prison for not a long time, very short time, but it's not really prison because you'll get to go home during the day.
Amazing.
Is that a thing?
Does he have to call timeout first and then he gets to go all right, time in?
So wait, he's just sleeping there, so it's like a not great hotel. Oh, wow, we got him. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.